There are still so many great films from the 80s that never got the attention they deserved. Movies that ended up overshadowed by bigger hits or just never broke into the mainstream, even though they're genuinely great. And some of these have built up cult followings over time, sure, but honestly, they're still way underappreciated compared to what they deserve. This movie is basically every family vacation gone wrong. You've got Chet, played by John Candy, a totally well-meaning regular dad, taking his family to a nice cabin getaway by a lake. But then his obnoxious brother-in-law, played by Dan Aykroyd, shows up uninvited with his own family, and everything goes downhill from there. These two guys argue about everything from parenting style to nature hikes, creating non-stop disasters. It's actually written by John Hughes, same guy behind classics like The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink. But for some reason, The Great Outdoors never got the same level of appreciation. It's funny, relatable, super wholesome, just perfectly captures the chaos of family vacations. Not sure why it isn't better known, because it's honestly great, especially if you've ever had a family trip go completely off the rails. Here we've got Tom Hanks, back before he was Mr. Serious Hollywood drama guy, playing Ray, this regular suburban dad. He and his friends start thinking their mysterious neighbors, the Klopeks, might actually be murderers, and when another neighbor disappears, these guys go full detective mode, making complete fools of themselves in one hilarious disaster after another. Today it's got a solid little cult following, but back when it came out in 1989, it was kinda overshadowed by other stuff. Didn't bomb exactly, did okay, but never became a classic like, say, Clue, another mystery comedy from the 80s. Definitely underrated, especially considering how funny and clever it is, and it's weirdly overlooked among Hanks's earlier comedy roles. Everyone talks about 80s rom-coms like Moonstruck or When Harry Met Sally, but one movie that hardly gets mentioned enough is Broadcast News. It's basically about a newsroom love triangle. Holly Hunter is Jane, a super-driven news producer who falls for a handsome new reporter who unfortunately represents everything she hates about TV news. Meanwhile, you've got Albert Brooks playing Aaron, the smart but awkward journalist who secretly loves Jane but can't quite admit it. Sure, it's longer and more serious than your typical rom-com, but the chemistry between these three is just insanely good. Hunter is amazing, Brooks nails the awkward, lovable guy perfectly, and the whole movie has this genuine depth to it. Funny, emotional, totally relatable. It's honestly kind of surprising more people don't talk about it today. This one goes completely against the grain of all those feel-good teen movies from the 80s, like Ferris Bueller or The Breakfast Club. Starts off really dark. A teenage guy murders his girlfriend and literally shows off the body to his friends. Instead of immediately calling the cops, these kids kinda spiral into confusion and panic, debating what to do, dealing with real issues like responsibility, morality, all stuff they'd rather ignore. It's a seriously bleak, dark movie, maybe one of the darkest teen films ever made. The characters act in ways you never expect, and that's exactly why it feels so real and unsettling. Plus, you've got Keanu Reeves in one of his earliest roles, and it's honestly one of his best. Definitely underrated. But it's no surprise this film stayed under the radar. It's tough, uncomfortable, and just brutally realistic. Most people know the story from the American remake, City of Angels. Nicolas Cage, Meg Ryan, super mainstream, but the original German film, Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire, is way better. Two angels roam around Berlin, watching people's lives unfold. One of them starts longing to become human, especially after falling in love with a beautiful trapeze artist. It's poetic, deeply philosophical, completely different vibe than the American version. There's really two movies happening at once. One is about mortality, human fragility, how fleeting everything is. The other is a genuinely touching romance story. When these two sides finally come together, it hits you really hard. Yeah, it's black and white in German, subtitles and all that, but seriously, don't let that stop you. It'll actually make you rethink the remake entirely. Nighthawks is a pretty underrated action thriller from the early 80s. Sylvester Stallone and Billy D. Williams play two NYPD detectives, Da Silva and Fox, working plain clothes on the street crimes unit. They end up going after a terrorist named Wolfgar who's been planting bombs around New York. Things escalate big time when he threatens a group of diplomats at the UN, and it leads straight into a tense showdown with Stallone's character. The reason this one kinda slipped under the radar is simple. The 80s were absolutely stacked with action classics. Stuff like Die Hard, Commando, Terminator. Tough competition. But Nighthawks is still worth watching. It's got that gritty New York vibe, some pretty tense moments, and a final scene that's kind of hilariously awesome. Everyone knows John Carpenter from horror movies like Halloween and The Thing, right? But Starman was him doing sci-fi mixed with romance, and actually nailing it. Jeff Bridges plays an alien who crash lands on Earth and takes the form of Karen Allen's dead husband. Obviously, she's freaked out at first, but eventually agrees to help him get across the country, and along the way starts genuinely caring for this strange being who looks exactly like her lost love. Even though Carpenter fans know how good this movie is, it never really got the mainstream love of his other classics, but it's one of the most emotional films Carpenter ever made. It blends sci-fi, romance, a bit of thriller. It's honestly kind of touching. Bridges and Allen give amazing performances, and it's definitely more heartfelt than the average Carpenter flick. This one's another Carpenter, but pure horror this time. Basically, a bunch of grad students accidentally find a mysterious liquid sealed in an old church basement, and turns out it's holding the literal son of Satan. Naturally, it escapes, starts infecting people, turning them into creepy, possessed zombies, and suddenly everyone's trapped, fighting for their lives inside their college building. In the 80s, horror was dominated by franchises like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, so smaller horror films like this often went overlooked. Today, when people think John Carpenter, they're probably thinking Michael Myers or The Thing, not this one. And that's too bad, because Prince of Darkness is actually a really cool horror flick, creepy and atmospheric, and Carpenter doing his own unique spin on classic Antichrist stuff. In the mid-80s, comedy was huge. Tons of classics came out, but Ruthless People is one of those great comedies that kind of slipped through the cracks. It's about a rich, ruthless fashion designer played by Danny DeVito, whose wife gets kidnapped by a couple he's screwed over financially. Twist is, DeVito's character was secretly planning to murder her anyway, to inherit her family's fortune. So now you've got kidnappers stuck with a hostage whose husband doesn't even want her back, and everything spirals out of control into one hilarious situation after another. Movie made decent money at the time, but for some reason didn't stick around like other classic 80s comedies. And it's a shame, because it stars Danny DeVito, Judge Reinhold, Bette Midler, all absolute legends. It's honestly funnier and smarter than a lot of other movies from back then. Definitely deserves more love. This one's a serious epic, set in the 1700s about a Jesuit mission in Paraguay trying to convert the local Guarani people to Christianity. Robert De Niro plays Rodrigo Mendoza, a former mercenary who's looking for redemption after killing his own brother. Mendoza had done terrible things to the Guarani, but now he's desperately trying to make up for it, and ends up leading them against invading colonists. Movie's beautifully made and the cast is insane. De Niro, Jeremy Irons, Liam Neeson, all giving incredible performances. Plus, it has one of Ennio Morricone's best ever soundtracks. But weirdly, despite all that, the mission hasn't really stuck around. It's exactly the kind of thoughtful, slow-building epic drama movies today keep trying and failing to replicate. If you love great acting, beautiful visuals, and genuinely powerful storytelling, you need to check this one out. Seriously deserves way more attention.